The Royal Albert Hall was not a typical event. Usually when you're touring, the days fall into fairly predictable patterns of waking up, driving, setting up, sound checking, performing, and then sleeping. But the Royal Albert Hall was a one-off, really. We stayed in London for the weekend, we booked hotels, we partied afterwards, and we didn't have to put the PA away ourselves.
It's been a long time coming, and here he is at the Albert Hall.
Started at whatever it was, 9 o'clock in the morning, getting up in some hotel in central London and trotting off there, and it's just loads and loads of hanging around. But we kind of had to be on hand. We never knew at what point in time we would be able to start sound checking, and since there were lots of guest musicians on that gig, just doing one song, as it were, you know, we had to do some run-throughs and so on. It really was a long day's work before you've even got to the actual gig.
And what's been fantastic since the Albert Hall is the number of people that have heard about it, even not being there on the night, but they read about it, they heard about it. And most people say, good luck to you. You know, you took a risk, and now you're broke.
On the violin, Phil.
Oh, it's brilliant, yeah, brilliant. We've seen them 2 or 3 times before, but it was worth travelling, yeah.
It was really good, brilliant.
I did wonder slightly if the sort of vastness of the place might overawe them, but no, I think they rose to the occasion magnificently, yeah, tremendous.
Absolutely excellent, yeah. We've seen them at quite a few festivals already, and they just get better and better all the time.
All the front row, you could see people that we've seen over the last 5 years. So it was like a big bath, really. It was great.
I would say one person in every 2 was a vaguely familiar face as the lights kind of went up on the audience from time to time. I was just thinking, it's like, yeah, seen them. The Royal Albert Hall was definitely not another day on the road. I mean, that's big, isn't it?
Morning. This is the day in the life of Show of Hands, isn't it?
Good morning.
We're in Andy McLeod's house in Hampshire, in the village of Wickham. We had a gig last night in Ringwood, and so this is where we stay when we're in the area. Within 30 or 40 miles, we head to Andy's because he's got a nice big house, and it's safe to put the gear, and there's lots of wine and booze and stuff here. So.
Oh dear.
Where else would we go? Andy and Heather's.
Waking up in strange rooms is one gets so used to it. I think you kind of go into a blur sort of thing when you're actually physically out on tour.
Whenever possible, we attempt to stay in the houses of very close friends of ours. Hello, Bill. This is Bill, by the way, who's extremely old and a good friend.
Some people that started off purely as fans have obviously since become friends. There's 2 couples in particular that have seen us 100 times each, and so we know them very, very well, and we see them socially, or we'll stay with them or whatever, and you do get to know people well.
We have to have a real breakfast table at least, you know, just to get the right feel. Yeah, Bill.
What we do in Show of Hands is we play narrative and melodic music on a variety of acoustic instruments with a lot of drive and with a lot of attack, and to try and spread this idea that there is English music, you know, to a larger audience. And that's really our philosophy.
I am the preacher on the island, 7 years lived alone. I try and bring some comfort to a world of sea and stone. There are no trees on the island, nowhere to shelter or hide. The men tear the rocks from the quarry, or take their chances on the tide.
I was surrounded by music as a child. My father was and still is a fiddle player. He played in a local dance band combo called Arthur Chalice and his Black Diamonds. My mother, who's very religious, played and still occasionally plays organ in the local Methodist church. So music was around a lot. Steve and I both grew up in the Exeter area. It was actually through what was then a thriving music scene in the late 60s, early 70s, when we were all sort of 16, 17. And Steve was in one band with two other guys, and they were kind of from one side of the River Exe. And I played with another guy, and I was from the other side of the River Exe.
I first met Phil Beer when I was about 15, and he was in a duo called Odd Folk from the other side of the river. And they were known as a nice couple of boys. And I was in this trio called Gawain. And we were arrogant and unpleasant and conceited. And there was a bit of rivalry, but we got to know each other and became friends. And he was always one of these people that could pick up an instrument and play it. Always had a remarkable gift for accompaniment. And we did a lot of work as a trio, playing in pubs that we weren't actually old enough to be served in when we were 15, 16. We went and did a tour of Sweden when we were 16, which was a fiasco. We arrived when everybody had gone back to college and school, a month too late. So it was cold and wet and bleak. And then I went through the sort of education system, and music was just a way of meeting people, socializing, rather than a career move. So it wasn't until really, I suppose, 1986 that when I moved back to the West Country that I thought that acoustic music could possibly be a vehicle for making a living.
By the time 1974 came, 1975, I'd actually moved to Brighton with a guy called Paul Downs, who was one of the guys that Steve played with, and we ended up playing music together for quite a substantial number of years, in fact.
Maybe they will make you smile. Maybe bring some comfort to you when you rest there.
I always thought that I could write songs that could earn me money. I was in a band called Short Stories, Total Strangers, another band called The Cheats. And we were on the pub rock scene for about 4 years, jumping up and down, making a loud noise and generally thrashing away.
But it was very difficult at that time because the new romantic stage was the look, and we didn't look like new romantics. And the punk thing was still setting the atmosphere for the music. So we were falling in between lots of stools. And we had a fiddler as well, which again, we got labelled with sort of like folk rock.
So when I moved back to the West Country in 1986, I sort of thought music had finished for me. I didn't think I was going to be able to make a living again.
Crow on the cradle, the black and the white. Somebody's baby is born for a fight. Crow on the cradle, the white and the black. Somebody's baby is not coming back. Sang the crow.
Thank you. Cheers.
He was living in London, and he was kind of winding up his sort of musical thing. He'd played in this quite good rock band where he'd written all the songs and had been the lead singer for a while. And like all of these things, they'd given it a good old bash and nothing had really happened. And I was with the Albion Band at the time, sort of one of the older folk rock bands. Seen many members go through it, and I was currently playing in that band, making a living, playing in that band, having a good time. And Steve kind of suggested that he hadn't got a band anymore, but he had all these gigs to fulfill. So myself and the drummer from the Albion Band formed part of this scratch band to fulfill all these gigs.
Money, money, money. This is merchandise, money from CDs that we sold last night at the gig. We've got a stand and all the CDs, T-shirts, stuff like that.
The thing that's invaluable, of course, is to be making and selling your own CDs. I mean, for Vaughan now, who you've been filming, I think they captured him this morning counting up the shekels. I mean, it's his job now. He's on a percentage of the income from merchandising, and that is a great relief not to have to be there selling and accounting for your own material, but we make it, we manufacture it, and it's in our interest to run this really good little shop.
And this is the gear. So you've got all the merchandise in here and all the equipment. There are CDs. That's the new album, Dark Fields.
What is it?
I think Vaughan's trying to play the banjo. Help! Call the police!
Help.
Stop it!
Vaughn, stop. Merchandise, you. Banjo.
Oh,
no! So we're sitting around Andy's house, and you can see there's a certain amount of influence we've exerted on him because he has a mandolin built by our maker. We use a lot of handmade instruments from Exeter, made by our friend David Oddy. And this is a David Oddy mandolin here, which Andy plays.
Nice, isn't it?
Here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go. I've still got mud on my trousers, but being lucky enough to actually get a ride the other day. You don't have to say anything.
Five or 6 years ago, we used to be known as the Yo-Yo Band. I mean, I remember one night we played in Winchester, then we went up to Sheffield, and then we came down to Gosport, and then we went up to, I don't know, somewhere Darlington, and it was just like this. And people used to look at our tour sheets and laugh. And we used to make this joke on stage that, you know, has anybody got a map, please, for our agent, in anything, even like a map of Roman brickwork, even a map of sort of like the distribution of mushrooms, just to show the guy where, you know, where things are in relation to another. But now that Gerard's booking the gigs and on the road with us, he sort of makes sure that it makes more sense.
Some hours later, you know I got room for 5, but I sit here alone.
I mean, we would quite happily do 300 or 400 miles a day, and that was in our old estate, clapped out estate cars with the PA in the back. I mean, you see we're driving now in the Caravel. I mean, that's luxury. We used to dream of Caravel. I can remember visions of when we first started working with Gerard. This is only 2.5 years ago. My estate car with the fold-down seats, fill in the back, gear like this, piled up, Gerard in the front, me in the front, gear sort of like on the roof. It was, it wasn't safe. Or you can have? I'm going to have the big breakfast.
I'm going to have the big breakfast as well.
As what?
As you.
All right. It's Friday the 6th of Feb and we're on the road to Brighton, and this is the second part of our Dark Fields tour, which first part was before Christmas, 1997, and I suppose we're going to do 10 dates on this one. And I think the biggest difference that we've noticed over the last 5 years, for a start, there's now 5 of us on the road. We've got Gerard doing the sound, Vaughan's doing merchandising, Will's doing lights and backline. That makes an incredible amount of difference. The actual not having to set up PAs and pack everything away means that we can actually spend more time talking to people.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really, I suppose, until 6 years ago when we decided to launch Show of Hands as a full-time musical activity for the both of us, that we began to play together, seriously. And at that time, we would play anywhere in the West Country that would book us, all the way from St Ives and heading south as far as Gosport and Brighton, pubs and clubs and working men's clubs, whatever ones there are down here, Stubbington Social Club. We have stood in those places and done what is necessary to get a round of applause in those venues. The better you get at pub work, you get this ability to plug in and play very, very loud, very fast material. And sometimes you go into a folk club the next night where everybody is sitting very politely and attentively, and it's a bit over the top, it's a bit too much.
Sort of frightening.
Yeah, so you have to sort of lead a double life, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
But where the pub experience really, really scored was when you leapfrog the little folk club and then you end up on a festival stage. So if you take your pub attitude to a festival stage, you can really win, because there you have to get on with it. You can't spend time chatting away, and you have to be very direct and quite aggressive.
The rain at Glastonbury made the event a nightmare, really.
Glastonbury Festival, 1997, at about 20 to 5. And very shortly, Phil and I should be playing in this marquee. But I'm afraid it's not going to happen. This building has been declared unsafe. It's an unsound structure, like a lot of the people here today. And instead, we're going to be playing tonight at about 10 o'clock in the cafe stage to a few hundred, rather than a few thousand.
So I'm going to talk in time with the beat. I'll go for the beat. We'll go for the beat. I've got two. Thank you. I have 2 daughters. One of them is training to be a stage manager. The other one wants to be an actress. I'm really pleased about my 2 sons here tonight. Could you all put your left hand in the air? Could you all put your right hand in the air? Ladies and gentlemen, show of hands!
I wrote a song last year that was called Is There Anything Left in England Not For Sale? I wondered if it might be going out of date about now, but apparently not. Subtitled Cutthroats, Crooks and Conmen. It's open day at my old school. I went along with a couple of friends, and the money they raised wasn't for swimming pools. Oh, the money was for paper, books and pens. There are cutthroats, crooks and conmen running this jail. Is there anything left in England that's not for sale? Out on the playing field, we got no power currency. Rows of houses stand. Whoa, orange lights bleach out the dark. When the nets came down, they had to sell the land. Oh, there's a supermarket now in the park. I noticed the Prodigy could do that. There are cutthroats, Is there anywhere left in England that's not for sale?
I think Glastonbury has got to be the favourite because you draw an audience that isn't just folk acoustic. You've got ravers chilling out, you've got rockers, you've got freaks, you've got the whole gamut of music goers. You've got jazzers all sitting out there. And if you are able to communicate, they are willing to be communicated to. So it's the most broad-minded festival.
Glastonbury is very important to Steve and I. It was a turning point in our career 4 years ago. It's amazing how influential Glastonbury was without realising it. We thought, okay, maybe we played to a couple of thousand people. It seems that actually we played to a lot more people than that.
Come listen to me and I'll sing you a song. Though it might offend you, it won't take me long. It's of the boat diggers at Fairmile Camp, deep underground in the cold and the damp. Digging down, 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 digging down.
Have a go.
That's your bit. Digging down, 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 digging down. Well sung. There's Ian and Animal, Pete and Welsh John, and Swampy of Fame I'll include in my song. There's no finer diggers in Devon, it's true, and the poor under-sheriff don't know what to do. Digging down, 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 digging down. Swampy said this new road is a terrible thing. Just think of the damage and ruin you'll bring. We've only one planet, oh, have you forgot? Would the cameras be here without us? I think not. Try it. Digging down, 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 digging down. So the bailiffs they dug and they shored up with planks, while hundreds of policemen they stood by in ranks. They thought they had reached them but soon felt quite sick to find a steel door that was 9 inches thick. Digging down, 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 digging down. So here's to the fine moles of old Fairmile cops. They'll be there in spirit until the road stops. Lift up your voices and raise up your glass. They gave the road builders a kick up the arse. Digging down, 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 digging down. Well sung. Well sung, you lot. Lots of songs and tunes have been written about the Irish and the Scots and the way that they've spread throughout the world. Lots of Cornish people, including Phil's great-great-uncle, emigrated looking for work. And wherever they were known, particularly in America, they were called Cousin Jacks for some reason. This is called Cousin Jack, and it goes like this. This land is barren and broken, scarred like the face of the moon. Our tongue is no longer spoken, towns all around facing ruin. Will I find work in New Brunswick, or will there be gold in the Cape? You can tunnel way down to Australia, sometimes you can never escape. Where there's a mine or a hole in the ground, that's what I'm headed for, that's where I'm bound. So look for me under the load and inside the pain. Copper clay, where the arsenic and tin run in your blood, they get under your skin. I'm leaving this county behind, I'm not coming back. Oh, follow me down, Cousin Jack.
And you'd think anybody responsible for this debacle, anybody responsible for inflicting this sham of a festival on ordinary people wouldn't even show his face. But not only is he here, but he's actually sort of daring to there's people out there waiting for show of hands. They're sitting there in the mud. Look, Gillian, let me just show you. Look. Out there, there's all these show of hands fans. Look, there's four there.
That's your entire fan.
No, hang on. There's another one there, right?
Right.
And they're not getting the show. They're not getting the show at all. And how do you feel about that?
Well,
this is called Flora, and it's an American folk song that's crossed the Atlantic, but originally it came from Devonshire. And it's not about the easiest spread to put on your bread. Flora is her name. I played on this instrument, quattro. Goes like this. Touch more quattro, please, Jared. Mr. Beer plays the violin as well, as you're about to find out. When first I came to England, my fortune there to find, a damsel there from Devonshire was pleasing to my mind. Her rosy cheeks and ruby lips like arrows pierced my breast, and the name she bore was Flora, the lily of the West. I courted lovely Flora for 12 months and a day, but she turned unto another man. My heart she did dismay, robbed me of my liberty, denied me of all rest. I was betrayed by Flora, the lily of the West. Way down in yonder valley, a man of high degree, conversing with my Flora there, seemed so strange to me, and the answer that she gave him sorely did oppress. I was betrayed by Flora, the lily of the West. I stepped up to my rival and I boldly bade him stand. I seized him by the collar, my dagger in my hand, and wild with desperation I pierced him to the breast. I was betrayed by Flora, the lily of the West. To stand my trial, and I had to make a plea. They brought her to the witness box, then commenced on me, and as she swore my life away, denied me of all rest, I still love my faithless Flora, the lily of the West. I still love my faithless Flora, the lily of the West.
So you would unreservedly recommend Show of Hands for any festival anywhere?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
There you go. Brilliant.
You know, I lost my eyes in a blacksmith shop in the year of 46. I was working on a revolver and it was out to fix. I am so sad and lonely and I'm condemned to roam, 'cause I am a blind fiddler, I'm a great long way from home. Well, I've been down to Knoxville to talk to Dr. Lane. He operated on one of my eyes, but nothing could he gain. I am so sad and lonely, and I'm condemned to roam, 'cause I am a blind fiddler, I'm a great long way from home.
Egg on the black t-shirt.
Well, I'm glad I found you here. I hope you're doing what you like. And though it's been a year, we're gonna sit up at the night. I hope
It's slightly nostalgic. Both Steve and I have lived in Brighton at differing times.
Well, I mean, I was brought up by the sea, so it always seems natural to live near it. My family came from Southampton and were involved in working in the docks and all that sort of thing. And I never realised, you know, always living within a mile of the sea, it seemed natural to come to Brighton. I did a course here, an education course. It's a good place to live. We've been looking for a gig in Brighton ever since we started playing together. It's great to be doing this one. Right in the middle of town, lovely little theatre, sell-out audience. All there was up to that point, before this guy Steve Fairhead promoted the gigs, was an arts centre out on the university campus, or some real seafront dives, really, like the Buccaneer or the Concord Bar. You know, the sort of place where I would say, you beat yourself up as you go in to save everyone else the trouble.
Beaconsfield Villas, up here. Great big student house with Paul and about 5 or 6 other people. So it was quite a good fun era, really. There's one fantastic grotty old but classic Victorian pub we used to go to called the Preston Park. Was it Springfield Road? One of the music venues up here, the Springfield, somewhere.
Yeah, one of the folk clubs we used to play in.
Yeah. Great little cinema down here. You know, one of the little indie cinema. It's just nice, just a lurch down the road, as I say, from where we used to live. Here it is, the Duke of York's. Isn't that great? Imagine vaguely you were in San Francisco, except that it's not very warm and it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it's nothing like San Francisco.
Nothing like San Francisco at all. Not here, next one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There used to be a doctor's over the road, I seem to remember.
Doctor's is here.
I used to go there when I was trying to get off teaching practice. Somebody said, sniff a load of pepper and rub your eyes and tell him you got flu. And he didn't believe a word of it. But he wrote out a sick note just the same. Dill Kush.
Dill Kush, it's still called Dill Kush. Memories of the Raj.
Being brought up in seaside towns, you're aware of, there's a sort of sadness and a faded splendour about holiday resorts in England out of season. And it's quite a poetic environment in the winter to wander around and be a solitary young man.
I suppose that the first song that I wrote that was specifically about the sea was a song called Tall Ships. And it's about a West Country fishing village that decides to wreck a passing merchant ship in order to live and survive upon what gets washed ashore.
On the skyline, the tall ships sailed by, bound for London, their decks piled high. Fruits of warmer lands passing through our hands, so we look for a storm in the sky. Farewell and adieu.
And I've always been aware of the tides and the changes of the weather. In fact, one of the nicest pieces of poetry I know is the shipping forecast.
Ronald's Way, southwest by west, 5, intermittent slight rain, 4 miles, 1003 rising slowly.
The English tradition very much, this idea of songs that tell stories. I like this idea, you've got these old books of folk songs and it says collected in like Whitchurch Canonicorum 1903. And I like this idea that these songs belong somewhere.
This is a tradition that you find all around the world. When we were working with our Chilean friends in Alianza, they had exactly the same sorts of traditions in South America.
The Alianza thing, we were actually put together with our Chilean mates. It was someone else's idea, and like all these things, when someone else comes up with an idea, you sort of think, don't like the sound of this. Actually, it was really, really good. It was one of those great, worthwhile things. So we have to take our hats off to one Roger Watson for actually placing us all together in that rehearsal room that day, just to see what would happen. Because it was a valuable experience. The tour was good fun. We did actually make some great music together, and it very heavily influenced Steve's songwriting.
I met Phil about 5-6 years ago, about 3 years after coming to the country. He was the usual ubiquitous fiddle player, really, and he called himself at that time a bon viveur, and he had a letterhead that said that as well. So, an amusing person to meet, I thought. He rang up out of the blue. He said, "How about would you like to come and tour with us, because the tour starts in a week, and we ain't got anyone else to do this." In Australia, I ran a recording studio and I had a record label there. I came over here with a lot of music of my own because I was performing there as well, and got work here at Ronnie Scott's, worked at Ronnie Scott's a couple of years, and toured with other bands like other folk bands, acoustic bands, because that was more the sort of music I was interested in doing in this country as well. So I sort of came from a pop, rock background, engineering and recording and stuff, and got well into folk music here, really. Ronnie was great. He had the best lighting technique of anyone I've ever met. He'd walk in and he'd say, "I can see the band, that's too much." And he would then turn all the lights off, and there'd be some poor guy playing the piano, and there'd be a spotlight on 8 keys up the top end of the keyboard, and the rest of them would be in the dark. We played at Ronnie's a couple of times now, and that's starting, oddly enough, to work well for us as the London gig that we do. Prestigious as it is, it's great. It's a really nice gig to have working well.
Jared's an unusual person, really. He's got a lot of skills, and in a sense, what we're doing at the moment depends very heavily upon his continued involvement. He's developed the internet site. He's become our agent, our manager, our sound engineer.
I would not walk outside the door without my own sound engineer, someone who knows what's going on. And Gerard is our man, basically. You know, he's the extra 10% of the music.
There's a lot more to show of hands than the performance on the stage. We've got a website that needs to be updated, so I've learned how to do that in the absence of anyone else who's stood up and gone, "I'll do it." There's all the agency work. We used various agents before when I first started working with Show of Hands. So that was another job, and then once you start doing that, you're talking about creating the publicity.
We've now started investing a bit more in the quality of photography.
I just remember Nels, the photographer, looking around the house, and like the main bedroom, which is a completely oak-panelled room, because he had to choose the most inaccessible room to be the shoot room, and there was a huge great table downstairs, and I just remember, you know, undaunted, him going out looking for ropes and things like this to haul this table from the ground floor up through the window into the bedroom in order to take the what turned out to be the Alianza publicity shot.
You cannot describe Phil Beer in 5 words.
Steve, tall, dark, almost handsome, musical.
Yes, I can describe Phil Beer in five words. Phil Beer is not from this planet. Phil is an extraterrestrial. Phil is from the planet... No, I can't.
Well, we're absolutely next.
Muscle, that's what it is, muscle. Nowadays it's possible to play to a large number of people and still sound, if you like, acoustic. And it's possible to generate volume and to use effects so that you can draw upon rock techniques. And people might come along to see us and expecting a folky duo, but what they actually get is a lot of volume and a lot of air moving. And we do play loud and we do play hard. And I think it's a positive advantage that Phil and I have both played electric guitar in bands. We've often been asked why we don't supplement the lineup and add drums and bass. And whenever we've put that idea to followers and fans, we've been surprised by the passion with which they've told us not to. Mr. Robinson. Right.
You carry those with you?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? I started playing the acoustic guitar when I was about 14. A whole pack of us at school picked up and started strumming. And at that time, Bob Dylan was whispering in my ear. I heard this record, the freewheeling Bob Dylan, and it was like this big brother that you'd always dreamed about, who was out on the road and rolling his own cigarettes and writing about trains and hobos. And it was such an amazing presence, you know, on those early records, this sense of a person. And I just wanted to play like Bob Dylan, so I learned Girl from a North Country and It's All Right, Baby Blue, It's All Over Baby Blue, and all those sorts of songs. But what I didn't realize in a lot of those songs, these Come All You songs and Boots of Spanish Leather, What Will I Send You From Around the World, I didn't realize the English roots of that type of song. Then when I was about 14, 15, and I heard Martin Carthy, I actually hitched to Sidmouth Festival, and I heard Martin Carthy playing, and I realized that this stuff came from Britain, and in a sense the whole world shifted a bit, and I stopped trying to be a young American, and I got seriously into English traditional music for a long time.
By being labelled as folk, we've had reports, for example, from radio stations. We sent the single. They didn't even play it because it said on the report that was sent back to the plugger, folk, not interested. So we're constantly trying to overcome that, really. We've tried using acoustic, we've tried calling it roots, but really all we can do is resign ourselves to the fact that we will be called a folk duo. But once people see us and listen to the music, they tend to think, oh, right, I didn't realise folk was quite like that.
I'm on the road. I'm on the road this time. I feel my luck could change. That's all right. Hold me out on the aircraft. Hold me out on the lake. We are standing on the edge. It's gonna be a glorious day. I feel my luck change.
I've got a number of songs that are set very definitely in historical periods or about historical events.
One of the special things about Show of Hands that makes it really work for audiences all around the world is that they manage to talk about things which are so essentially English and have got such a romantic, not nostalgic, but a genuine romantic connection with what people all over the world think of as England and as part of what Englishness is. In the same way as Dostoevsky writes about people that, even though they're 200 years ago, we can see those characters, we know them, we understand what they do and what they think. That's what the Show of Hands songs are largely about, and I think that's what makes them work.
A lot of singer-songwriters have used warfare as a theme. It's not something that we do a lot of. I think one of the strongest anti-war songs I've ever heard is The Dove by Jacques Brel, with the most amazing lyrics, and it's got much more of a Gallic European chord structure. And it tells, you know, the story of a conscript soldier and the trains going to the front. But I tend not to personally write very many songs about the front line. The song that we do, I suppose, the most specifically about war, World War I, is The Preacher. So not The Preacher, The Keeper, where the guy is a gamekeeper. But really the actual proportion of that song that occurs in the front at the trenches is quite tiny. It's mainly about this image of a man who has to work, has to rise at dawn and drive birds towards the guns. He has to walk towards the guns upon a given signal. And I find that image really arresting, particularly as you could apply it to the first day of the Somme and before and after the war. You know, it describes his experience.
In Devonshire, I was a keeper, and half my life I lived outdoors, using skill my father taught me on land that edged the open moor. July the 1st, 1916, we early rose past round the rum. The whistles blew and we broke cover and walked in line towards the guns. We walked towards the waiting guns.
We're in Topsham in Devonshire, at the home of a man called Griff Thomas, who was head of history when I was at school in Exmouth, and he's someone that I might check my historical facts with before I stand in front of people and sing a song about a war or an event that actually happened. This house is called the Duke, and it was an inn in 1680 when the Duke of Monmouth came here to Topsham and stayed. This is 5 years before the Monmouth Rebellion was launched. And he made a speech from that very window over there to the people of Topsham, trying to rally people to his cause. I was also asked to write a song for a reenactment that happened in 1985. And it's a sort of insight into the processes whereby some songs are written. This is a picture of me with an alarming hairstyle singing out of that window. And these are the words that I finished literally on the midnight before the event. And it's about Monmouth coming to Topsham and about him trying to rally people to his cause. And it's also about the fact that he was confused with the man in green legend, so that in the eyes of a lot of country people, as well as being an heir to the throne, he was a sort of force of nature.
When I moved to Dorset and I started writing again, I didn't realise that there was a bedrock upon which to base all that material. I didn't realise that you could sing about the hunter and the preacher and the well and the poacher, and all these figures could become interesting to people when they listen to them.
Red brick cottage on the edge of the woods, cars and cages all around. At the back in a lean-to shed, that's where my long dog's found. Got a four-wheel pickup and a shotgun, never bought a meal in my life. I go shopping with a lamp and a knife. I got a long dog, I am a poacher.
The more that we've confined these songs to even individual villages in Dorset, you know, for example, a song about water and the ownership of water, and all of a sudden it becomes a universal theme by being narrowed down.
Okay, well, normally I have perhaps a few chords. I mean, take a phrase like, that suggests a melody, da, 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 da. And that will hang around in my head for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months. I'll just be building chords, putting music together until a lyrical idea suggests itself. And that could come out of a story or a conversation or an incident or whatever. And when the sort of lyrical idea matches the music that I've already got filed away in my head, I put the two together, and then it's a question of working at it, really.
Steve usually wanders around for ages with a new song. Often at sound checks he kind of hums melodies and half forms words. So often I've got the idea of how a song is developing just from the little bits that he sings at sound checks, you know, and that they kind of subconsciously go in. And then after a while he starts to sort of present what's more or less a completed song, and he sometimes changes things at the last minute.
I very rarely sit down and write completed lyrics and then put music to it. It's a question of interaction. People had always been they were constantly coming up at concerts and asking for chords and lyrics and that sort of thing. So I thought I'd put the songbook together, and it worked out quite well. We did all the filming for the interiors of the cover and some of the shots inside we did in the cottage, and it was a lovely summer's day and the light was streaming in. And I think it set up a nice atmosphere for the book. I like the idea of people learning the songs. I mean, I've not really had a major cover by a major artist, but loads and loads of semi-professional and amateur singers are singing the songs.
Yeah, we don't tend to have formal rehearsals. You know, it'll be odd little bits where we'll just there'll be 10 minutes to sit down, and a little bit of kind of develop the song will happen. Again, very organically. That's the kind of key word. It's all quite sort of spontaneous with us.
Do it lower down so you don't.
That is actually a G minor. Spell that line, this goes again. And then it's a E flat.
Pushes it.
1, 2, 3, 4. Does it push all the way?
No, let's see.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Do it with the first one. Yeah. Lay a track of words before you. You can walk it for a while. Maybe bring some comfort to you. Make you smile. Shade on the wall. Yeah, but it's interesting in India. They called us country music, you know, and that was it. There was no argument about the style or what it should be called, because it was music based in the countryside.
India just isn't like anything else. I mean, the odd major rock band will go and play the sports stadium in Delhi, probably, you know, but to actually be able to get it together off our own backs to go and tour, no one like us has ever done anything like that, especially entirely off your own back. And the whole thing of touring by road most of the time, or train, it was just a unique and very exciting experience.
Wednesday the 26th of February, that is the time. 3 o'clock, I don't know if you can see that. In about 3 hours we're going to be getting on the plane to Delhi for the Show of Hands tour of Rajasthan and India. We're at Phil's house in Gloucester. That's Phil. That's Henry the cat. We don't know what to expect. We've arrived in Delhi. It's 11 o'clock in the evening. This is our stuff down there. That's the airport in the background. And the theory is that we're going to be met here by people from the hotel. The white ones are the posh ones. We'll hang around here for a bit and see what happens. Yeah.
And if nothing happens, we'll go to the bar.
This is the thing. Right, well, we're at the hotel. Everything's all right. We've got nice rooms, except we are being moved in about 10 minutes.
But I believe it's an upgrade.
Yeah, executive class.
Executive class, really.
So that's fine. The hotel's good. There will be a press conference stroke concert at about 6:30, and we're expecting TV and radio, so that's good. Yeah, so far it's I'd say that he's suffering the privations very, very well. For example, we're in a 5-star hotel. He's out there at the moment by the swimming pool. He's had an excellent lunch. He had lots of beer last night. Tonight we are going to be dining in one of the best restaurants in the world, the Bukhara, that you can't book for, you have to queue up. Fortunately not us. What we got here is a terrible traffic jam with a cow and show of hands. Seems to have cleared itself up a bit.
So you're not happy with your room then?
I'm a bit fed up.
But I'll tell you what, after our cup of tea, I'm going to murder the swimming pool if I can find it.
Yeah.
The chef, the most important man here.
Good horn, good bread, good luck.
That's it. One evening fair, as I took the air, oh, down by the blackboard side, it was gazing all around me. Ah, that the Irish that I spy, all through the fair parts of that night. Oh, we sport in the lane, and this young man arose. He put on his clothes, said farewell, Good morning. Delhi station, 5:30. This is the train to get to Agra. Phil's already on board.
this land's divided, forever changed. Your path lies east, and mine remains. Go by darkness, I'll do the same. But oh, my love, beware the train.
Oh, they're excellent. Very good.
Excellent,
Yes.
yes. Oh, most definitely.
Favourite songs, Cara? Crow on the Cradle, Bonnie Light Horseman.
And they're very good. We saw them at Pulborough. There's two of them, yes.
Oh, Greenberry, what's the one? The green. Oh, there's loads.
It's called the Blue Cockade. It was on one.
I think it's important for us to remain in contact with people. I mean, we do hang around the venues. We are to be found at the bar, buying a drink or being bought a drink. And when the numbers in the audience are around 300 or so, that's not a real problem. I imagine if our audiences grew to 700 or 800, it would just be impossible to make yourself available. But at the moment, people know where to find us and they like to have a chat, and they know that we're approachable and we don't sort of dress up differently. So there's nothing to hide. It's wrinkles and all. We met some people about 6 months ago who'd spent a weekend coming down to this part of Dorset, looking at the various locations of some of the songs. They went to Corscombe for The Hunter, they went down to Mapperton for Long Dog, they went to Portland for The Preacher, and they sort of they played the tapes and walked around the locations. And it was a bit like you're entering, what is it, up northeast, so-and-so county, Cookson County, is it? It's like show of hands country. In 1992 we decided to record a live album, which was a bit odd really, because we hadn't done a studio CD up to that point. The next thing we did was an album called Beat About the Bush. This was 2 years later, again under the auspices of a local label. Recorded that in Dorset. But on that album we decided to use a rhythm section. So we used a drummer and a bass player on about half the tracks, and piano, no electric instruments, it was all acoustic instruments. The next project was an album called Backlog, which was a compilation of the first 3 cassettes that Phil and I recorded.
And I do actually think that the compilation album, Backlog, of all of that very early stuff is actually rather good, you know, because it's very unproduced and has a good feel to it.
1995 was Lie of the Land, and that album, containing The Hunter and Captains and The Preacher, was very much an attempt to follow this idea up of songs rooted in the West Country and located in particular locations, which is something I've been doing now since that album. 96 was Royal Albert Hall, and that again obviously was a live album using guest musicians. Some of them had been involved in the 92 live album, such as Matt Clifford.
I think of all our albums, I actually think the current one is terrific. I'm very, very pleased with the way Dark Fields has come out.
I think the culmination of this idea of writing songs set in particular locations, it's got Cousin Jack on about the South Crofty miners, it's got Long Dog about, you know, the local poachers and all that sort of thing. So it's probably the last album with that specific West Country located theme.
The important thing about tonight is the curry afterwards.
Good evening. My name's Tom Robinson. I've come here especially to see the show tonight. This is a band I first saw 6 years ago. They were supporting me and blew me off the stage, I'm happy to say, and they've carried on getting better ever since. You've got great songs, great playing, songs with a big heart and plenty of English soul. Please welcome, show of hands!
Thank you very much. You sailors bold who plough the ocean, see dangers landsmen never know. It's not for honor or promotion, and tongue can't tell what you undergo. Our ship or two no longer adrifting, safe in St. Vincent, Cape Verde we lay. Good fellows all who hear my story, pray you'll ne'er suffer the like again. From my house in Clifton, I see ships under sail. Through St. Paul's to the harbour, tied up in the basin lie a dozen floating jails for profit and promotion. Oh no, no, I steer a Bristol Slaver, selling lives across the ocean. Oh no, no, oh, no man on earth can save you. And to my house in Clifton, I bring capital from pain. Trinkets to Africa, slaves to Jamaica, rum and tobacco back again and again and again, for profit and promotion. Oh no, no, I steer a Bristol Slaver, selling lives across the ocean. Oh no, no, no man on earth can save you. Off Cape Verde we lay an anchor, all we're crammed from stem to stern. Soon we sail for Kingston, torn away from Africa, never to return. I curse the Bristol Slaver. Oh no, no, as we steer towards the west, he can sail the seas forever. Oh no, no, may his spirit never rest. We came here in the 50s. I grew up in St. Paul's. One night I walked through Clifton. There was a voice in the darkness, a shadow on the wall. It set for profit and promotion. Oh no, no. I steer a Bristol Slaver, selling lives across the ocean. Oh no, no. No man on earth can save you from profit and promotion. Oh no, no. I steer a Bristol Slaver, selling lives across the ocean. Oh no, no. Oh no man on earth can save you. He still walks. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That was the Bristol Slaver. This is the single that we released last year. It was, I'm sure it would have been a big hit if anyone could have bought it. However, it was Radio Biddeford's Record of the Week, which was nice. It's called Crazy Boy, and oh well. I know that happens to Frank Sinatra. It's never happened to us. That's very nice. Thank you very much indeed. It's called Crazy Boy. Yeah. That is also the chorus as well. Crazy Boy. I got a call from your sister. You know your mother's in tears, with all the rings round your eyes and the rings in your ears. She asked me to see you, oh, point you out the right path. We looked at each other, started to laugh. Everything's easy. You say everyone's cool. I've heard it before. Who you trying to fool? With your head full of hopes, oh, and your pockets of dreams, think you'll live forever when you're 16. Crazy boy, have a go. I said, oh, crazy boy. Thank you. Once more. Oh, crazy boy. All the sweetness, all the sorrow and joy. Whoa, you crazy boy. There you go. Oh, don't you? Just before midnight, I saw you in town. You'd been lining them up and knocking them down. There's no sleep till morning. Oh, when you're living for thrills, you got a bottle of wine and a couple of pills. Crazy boy. I said, oh, you crazy boy. Whoa, crazy boy. Have a go. Oh, crazy boy. There you go. La da 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 da. Thank you. We just finished the gig at the Pavilion Theatre. It's about 12 o'clock on a Friday night, and the guys are packing up and doing all that sort of stuff, so we're hanging around on the seafront, which is an area that we know quite well. I used to play over there at the Concord, and over there at the Buccaneer, and behind us is the Palace Pier.
I think we always used to end up down here on the beach late at night after tumbling out of one of these pubs or other, completely out of our trees, having a jolly time. It brings back memories of being bloody freezing cold, actually. It's just the same, isn't it? It's like, almost like nothing's changed, you know. I think we're going to walk back now.
Yeah, can I just say one thing? Okay, you're not in this one. The President's seaman.
I think it is, in fact, time.
What? Okay. Good night. Thank you. Good night.
It's insured. If it's not in the garage, it's not insured. It's really basic.
That is a plain one. That's a plain one. That's opposed to our...
All right.
No,
you're absolutely right. I have not.
It's dedicated to him, in fact. Actually, that's not like plain ones as well.
I'd like a pop.
It's that search for the garlic naan. You know, it's so important to find the garlic one. Because I think we have a strong possibility here. We could be in the right area. No, but it's in fact a disappointment.
Could it possibly be
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. You, it was mine from the outset, so everything's fine, as far as that's concerned.
Polly, lovely Polly, oh, the rout has now begun, and we must go marching to the beating of the drum. Dress yourself all in your best and come along with me, and I'll take you to the cruel wars in High Germany. After my picture fades and darkness has turned to grey, staring through windows, you're wondering if I'm okay. Secrets stolen from deep inside. The drum beats out of time. If you're lost and you look, then you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time. If you're lost and you look, then you will find me. Time after time. If you fall, I will catch you, I'll be waiting. Time after time. Time after time.
What about Trouble Over Bridgewater?
Unfortunately, it's been done before.
Is it? Oh.
Yeah, but it is a good one, yeah.
From West Dorset to your heart. Like blah, 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 blah. A musical journey from the West or something like that. What about town, country and family planning? It's difficult to know about a title until you know what you've got, really, doesn't it? What about it's not what you've got, it's how big it is? All right, no, we won't lose that one.
Stairway to Devon, that's a good one.
Is that your own? That's a good one. That's a good one.
So far, so what? Yeah.
The road goes on forever.
The row goes on forever.
Walking down the track, tears in my eyes, trying to read a letter from my home. Train runs me right, I'll be home tomorrow night. I'm 900 miles from my home. I'll pawn you my watch, pawn you my chain, pawn you my golden diamond rings. If this train runs me right, I'll be home tomorrow night. I'm 900 miles from my home. Just before midnight, I saw you in town. You'd been lining them up and knocking them down. There's no sleep till morning. Oh, you're just living for thrills. You got a bottle of wine and a couple of pills. Oh, crazy boy. Oh, crazy boy. A head full of hope, oh, and pockets of dreams. You can live forever when you're 16. Oh, you crazy boy. Oh, sorrow and joy. Oh, crazy boy. Thought I would see you, oh, point you out the right path. We looked at each other, we started to laugh, and said, oh,